Mark was the poster child for success, the kind of guy everyone looked at with a mix of admiration and envy. He was the early bird who didn't just catch the worm, he ran 5 miles before most people even hit snooze. His home office was a shrine to ambition, plastered with cheeky quotes reminding him and the world that hard work equals success. Friends cheered him on, calling him unstoppable. But if you peered closely, you'd see the toll it took, the exhaustion lurking behind that inspired facade. Hey everyone, welcome to Psychologist Jeep, the little corner of the internet for overthinkers, quiet feelers, and people who've watched one motivational video too many and now feel guilty for resting. Today, we're peeling back something we rarely talk about, the dark side of motivation, that pressure to constantly improve, grind, rise, hustle until your brain quietly whispers, hey, maybe we don't need to be a productivity machine today. Here, we don't glorify burnout. We don't worship hustle culture. If you've ever felt like you're failing just because you're tired, trust me, you're not alone. Before we dive deeper, take a moment to like, share, and comment. Your voice makes this strange little community feel like home. At first, Mark was on fire, fueled by the thrill of progress and new achievements. It felt incredible. The high of conquering goals was intoxicating, and who wouldn't want that rush? But as time ticked by, the glow began to fade, leaving him chasing shadows. The victories that once brought him joy faded into the background, quickly forgotten the moment he set his sights on his next ambition. What once lit his path slowly morphed into a heavy weight he couldn't shake off. Here's the kicker: motivation is like jet fuel with a messy aftertaste. It revs up your engine but leaves you with a whole lot of anxiety and guilt as residue. Instead of pausing to celebrate, that nagging thought creeps in what's next, turning every triumph into a slippery slope of pressure. Mark never saw it coming. The rush of success started to feel more like an impending avalanche of expectation rather than the elation he used to experience. Psychologists have dubbed this relentless chase as the hedonic treadmill, where the harder you run, the less satisfied you feel. It's like being trapped on a treadmill with a broken speed setting. You sprint like a cheetah but never move an inch towards true fulfillment. Mark was oblivious as he ran. He thought he was climbing to greatness when in reality, he was just treading water, desperately gasping for air amidst a sea of unmet expectations. And the danger doesn't stop there. Motivation wears a blindfold, leading you to neglect the essentials of sleep, relationships, and even mental health. Winners don't sleep, fuels the grind, while grind now, shine later, turns your weekends into an endless cycle of work. Society hoists people like Mark onto a pedestal, celebrating the hustle while conveniently ignoring that it might just be breaking them down. It's all fun and games until someone forgets to enjoy life. Reflect for a moment, how many times have you pushed through exhaustion not because you wanted to, but because you felt it was expected? How many times did you criticize yourself for a lack of motivation, as if simply being human wasn't arduous enough? This is the dark twist in the tale. When motivation transforms into a survival tactic, it shifts from passion to pressure, chasing you rather than you leading the charge. And so, there lies Mark, caught in a whirlwind he created, where every new goal is an anchor weighing him down instead of a buoy. It's a wild lesson hidden in the glamour of ambition. Motivation can be a beast. The challenge? Understanding when to hit pause, to breathe, and perhaps even deliberately step off the treadmill before it runs you into the ground. So, what will he choose? Mark was caught in the motivational hamster wheel, convinced he was the captain of his own ship, sailing smoothly towards success. Little did he know, the winds weren't in his favor. Whenever he laid anchor for a rest, guilt would crash over him like a tidal wave. Slowing down? That's for slackers, he thought, leading him to run faster. It was a classic case of being controlled by the very thing that was supposed to empower him. Instead of climbing that mountain of achievement feeling on top of the world, Mark discovered a twist in the plot. As he reached his lofty goals, an unexpected emptiness began to gnaw at him. The milestones that once filled him with pride now felt like heavy baggage. Maybe I just need a bigger dose of motivation, he mused. Poor Mark didn't realize it wasn't his go-getter spirit that needed a boost, but rather, it was his understanding of what it meant to truly thrive. Turns out, motivation is a magnificent spark, the kind that lights the fire of ambition but can be as fleeting as a summer breeze. Relying solely on motivation? That's volatile game playing. What holds the castle together is not just a wild chase after dreams, but a caring blend of discipline, balance, and deeper purpose. Yet Mark, like many, was tethered to that sensational high motivation. The chase became an inescapable trap, leaving him spinning in circles. Here's a juicy question for you. Is constant motivation actually a bit overrated? What if the key to a fulfilling life involves more than frantically racing ahead? Think about it. When did you discover your hidden strengths? Was it during those fiery bursts of energy, or in the quiet moments of reflection post-failure? The sneaky side of motivation misleads us into believing that taking a breather means falling behind, when in reality, it's the perfect time to gain clarity. It wasn't until one fateful morning that Mark faced the music. He woke up, struck by an epiphany. Why was he even in this race? The goals that once danced in his dreams were now heavy shackles. It was time to take stock and ask the deep questions. What was he really chasing? Who was there to witness the victory? And was it worth the emotional toll? Those questions marked his transition from frantic runner to thoughtful wanderer. The dark side of motivation brought with it an important lesson that many overlooked. Balance is essential. The world often pushes us towards more hustle, more grit, more achievements, but what if the real treasure was in less? Less strain, less pressure, less relentless comparison to others? The challenge now was to redefine what winning even looked like, not just for Mark, but for anyone who felt that burnout creeping in. Finding equilibrium in this relentless pursuit isn't an easy task. It's a tightrope walk in a world that says keep going, keep striving, keep grinding. Mark had to figure out how to harness motivation without falling prey to its darker whims. He learned that it's about listening to that quiet voice within and knowing when to push forward and when to simply pause. What a twist in the story! The answer is an enthusiastic yes, but hold on tight because we need to make a mental shift. It's all about ditching popular trends for something much more sustainable. We're about to dive deep into the hidden truths of motivation that get glossed over, and uncover those clever little ways you can shield yourself from its sneaky dark side while still chasing your dreams and discovering meaning in life. Ready? Let's roll. Let's talk about motivation in a way that'll make you think twice. Psychologists, in their quest for knowledge, found out that all motivation isn't created equal. Oops, surprise. There are two main types, intrinsic and extrinsic. Intrinsic motivation bubbles up from within, like that warm, fuzzy feeling when you do something you love. Extrinsic motivation, however, is the outside noise, the shiny rewards, applause, and social media likes. While both can flick the switch on our energy, it's the extrinsic kind that can add a bit of darkness to our motivations. Remember our buddy Mark, who decided to embrace pre-dawn jogging. At first, it wasn't about showing off to anyone. It was pure joy. He felt alive. He ran for health, strength, and that exhilarating sense of freedom. Sounds great, right? But as time passed and praises rolled in, that inner spark dimmed. Running turned from a joyful expression into a pressure cooker of expectations. He wasn't just running for fun anymore. The fear of failure hitched a ride, morphing the joy into an obligation. It's that quintessential shift from woohoo to a "but hey, this is a slippery slope" we all find ourselves sliding down. Many of us have our passion projects that metamorphose into stress balls. Remember when you painted because it brought you joy? Once it became about the likes and followers, that fun activity turned heavy. All the time you studied not for grades, but out of sheer curiosity. Suddenly, grades had your heart racing and your spirit dampening. It's a well-known trap when a joyful pursuit transforms into a weighty obligation. The more we fixate on outcomes, the less we engage and savor the process. Here's the kicker. The more we pursue those elusive outcomes, the less we savor the journey. Even reaching our goals can leave us feeling a bit empty. Think about those high achievers who get that promotion or shiny award just to find themselves asking, "Wait, why don't I feel as great as I thought I would?" That's because external rewards can never mimic the internal joy we seek. It's like chasing a mirage, folks. And, oh boy, let's chat about the joy stealer known as comparison. Motivation can become an over-caffeinated competition. You know the drill. You scroll through social feeds and instead of feeling that warm, inspiring glow, you feel a sudden wave of inadequacy crashing over you. This all fits neatly into social comparison theory, where we pit ourselves against others and let our self-worth swing wildly based on how we measure up. This never-ending cycle of competition can lead to feeling perpetually behind, and let's be honest, that's a real party pooper. So, take heed, friends. If your motivation's linked to outshining others, you're storming a never-ending battleground where victory feels out of reach, stealing your peace along the way. Let's break free from that exhausting cycle. True fulfillment shines from intrinsic joy. It's time to reclaim your passions and enjoy the ride without the unnecessary baggage. Mark found himself in an endless loop, chasing motivation like a cat after a laser pointer. What he didn't realize was that this fervent pursuit stemmed from a gnawing fear of stillness. In those quiet moments, he was confronted with himself. No distractions, no lofty goals to cling to. The irony: as he ran harder after motivation, he distanced himself from truly living. His life turned into a frantic race, leaving his joy and excitement dashed at the curb. The turning point came one particular evening. After months of endless hustle, Mark slumped down and felt nothing but a profound emptiness. It dawned on him that he was no longer thriving but merely existing on autopilot, fueled by a misguided drive masquerading as motivation. It was a shocking epiphany that shone a light on a darker side of ambition, quite terrifying yet liberating. Instead of fleeing from this realization, he realized he needed to transform his approach, shift from mere chasing to thoughtful choosing. So, what does this transformation entail? First up was a serious redefinition of success. Gone were the days of solely asking, "What can I achieve?" Instead, Mark switched gears to ponder what truly nourished his spirit. This meant being present in the moment, saying no without feeling guilty, and giving himself permission to rest. Success morphed from climbing mountains to appreciating simple joys, like watching clouds drift by and relishing a hot cup of coffee in the morning. Next, Mark focused on rekindling his intrinsic motivation. Remembering why he started was paramount. He stripped away the noise of social media accolades and reclaimed the joy of the process itself. Writing became a personal endeavor again, rather than a race for likes, and running transformed back into a joyous escape, with his feet pounding against the ground without a timer latching him down. In this authentic space, he rediscovered the purity of motivation. Balance stepped into the spotlight as a crucial factor. Motivation might propel you forward, but it's the sweet spot of balance that keeps you grounded. Rest wasn't an indication of weakness, it was an integral part of life's growth rhythm. Mark likened it to music, where silences punctuate melodies, creating harmony. Just like a song needs pauses, life too needs its moments of stillness to thrive instead of merely surviving. Finally, letting go of needing constant motivation emerged as a game changer. Mark learned that living a meaningful life didn't hinge on being constantly charged up. What mattered much more was consistency, discipline, and a sense of purpose. Unlike motivation, which flickered like a spark. These quiet forces became the steady flame that would navigate him through darkness. In this newfound wisdom, Mark began asking different questions. How can I live better? Over how can I push harder? He was still aiming for goals, but now with an eye on his well-being. Hard work still had its place, but so did rest and reflection. Life transformed from an overwhelming sprint into a beautiful series of rhythms, mixing effort with ease, striving with stillness, finding the perfect blend of fire and calm. Life has a funny way of teaching us lessons, often when we least expect it. Take motivation, for example. Sure, it can be a driving force, but there's a little voice that warns against blurring the lines between movement and progress. So many of us dance to the beat of productivity, believing that the more we do, the more we're worth. But what if doing isn't the point? What if just being is? Picture this. You're feeling sluggish one day, zero motivation to tackle that to-do list towering over you like a mountain. Instead of launching into a self-critique marathon, why not take a moment to tune in? That lethargy might be your body's gentle nudge, pleading for a bit of rest. Maybe it's not laziness, but an urgent lesson in the art of recharging. In the grand scheme of things, could rest actually be a teacher rather than the villain? Here's where the plot thickens. When we stop expecting ourselves to be like hyper-caffeinated squirrels, we actually create space for something more profound than getting things done. We're talking about fulfillment. It's that cozy feeling that doesn't come from burning the midnight oil, but from the simple realization that you're perfectly enough, that even when you're not breaking the sound barrier with your productivity, you still shine. Take Mark, for instance. He was once all about the hustle, chasing goals like a dog chasing its tail. But as he learned to slow down and breathe, he realized his best moments didn't come from frantic racing. They sprang from living intentionally. He swapped out the pressure cooker mentality for something more savory and harmonious, discovering that taking it easy can lead to delicious growth. The duality of motivation is like a romantic comedy. One moment it's a loving guide, and the next, it's like a clingy ex wanting to control your life. It ignites that spark, but if you're not careful, it can consume you whole. The real trick: hold it lightly. Let motivation be a spark rather than a suffocating blanket. Navigate its waves without allowing it to steer your entire ship. At the end of the day, let's not get wrapped around the idea of staying eternally motivated. Instead, let's flip the question. How do we cultivate a life that feels significant, even when the motivation fizzles out like a soda left open too long? Remember, motivation will inevitably come and go like the tide. But purpose, presence, and peace, those are like your steadfast beach towels, always ready to cushion you when the waves get rough. Here's the kicker: true success isn't in the endless chase for more. It's the eye-opening moment when you realize you're already enough. Embrace that. Celebrate the pauses, the quiet moments, and the intentions that bring you joy. Life's wild ride is not always about hurrying. Sometimes, it's about soaking in the sights. So let's kick back, breathe, and enjoy the beautiful chaos of it all.